Yeah, let's give us
I have a feeling whatever. Yeah. Oh, that's a good area. Actually, I did live in Bangalore. Now I would used to be, but most recently we tried to get striking and well, yeah,
Hey, what's up, Dave? Right now. Can you hear us?
I hear you. Not great.
Okay, can you unmute yourself or just have the audio?
What?
Can you say something?
Talk. 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Can you hear me? I can hear you fine. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Can you hear me?
Not really. Bridge healthcare project about it. And it's sort of like yeah. That was my first healthcare
Okay, Dave, can you say something again?
Do you guys spend a lot?
Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Try and say, Jake test.
You hear me fine, right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. So you can take this, and I got one. Okay.
Go ahead, intro.
All right, you can start here.
Hello. How's everybody doing? My name's Armand. I actually manage this co-working space.
Power on.
Sounds like it's working. But yeah, it's called Mindspace.
Bluetooth connected.
We have 46 locations worldwide. So actually started in Israel and then expanded all over Europe and then here in the States. And yeah, we're super happy to welcome you guys in. We're relatively new to the area, so we're all about, trying to get more involved in the community, specifically with the tech community here in Miami. So super excited to have you guys. And I'm gonna be heading out, but Bruna, our community associate in the back, she'll be here and she'll hand out free day passes for everybody, so you guys can come check us out. And we also have a promotion going on for hot test that she'll tell you guys about on the way down too, so.
So Armin, so tell us about your background. I know we're in the tech industry before this as well.
Kinda. I can't really take full credit for being in the tech industry, but I did work in e-commerce before this. And I managed a digital community for a brand, so I made the transition into, more in real life community management. And yeah, Mindspace is a very holistic company. We try to interact with all different industries, but being here in Glenwood, we know that tech is the main focus, so we're super excited, like I said, to align ourselves with organizations like Trendco, to try to bring more of a sense of community here in Miami within the tech scene. So yeah, we're making a big push to get more and more people in the space, get our name out there. So please do take advantage of the free day pass and come back and check us out, and work here for the day. We also have meeting rooms that are available to book as well, and private offices, of course. So if you guys have any questions, Bruno will be here to answer any of those, and yeah, enjoy.
Thanks for hosting.
Of course.
So yeah, this is an amazing space. I guess you opened in September, and we're actually going to spend just a few minutes going around the room introducing ourselves. It's a small enough, intimate community, and since it's a regular event series, I think it'd be useful for you guys to get to know each other. And before we start, though, this is David Rankin. Dave, say hi. So David is one of the more interesting people you'll meet. He's actually a trained trained magician. So he's really impressed my little niece and nephew with all the little card tricks they taught him. But he's also the principal at the brand new Draper Goren blockchain fund. So they're actually looking for Miami companies to pitch them. So David, why don't you say a few words before we do some introductions in the local room?
That's nice that Praveen thinks of me so highly in magic. It was more just a hobby that I picked up. I could call myself a serial hobbyist. I jump from hobby to hobby all the time and learning new things. I'm excited to be here today. I believe it's Trienco. How do you say that, Praveen?
It's Trinco.
Trinco. Okay, Trinco. So excited to be here. I've been in the block.
Amelia, you should introduce Trinco. It's literally
Trinco.
question.
So I've been in the blockchain space for the last 4 years. Been in it actually longer than that. But I like to only say that I've been in the last 4 years because that's been full time for the last 4 years. And I've got to know a lot of great people. I actually run a local Bitcoin meetup over in California. And I got to know Praveen through that a couple of years ago. Been heavy in the DeFi space, NFT space. I'm pretty well knowledgeable about just about, I'd say, a wide array of topics in the crypto space, which is what has kind of brought me into the role that I'm in now, just because of that. My background is basically IT, real estate, construction. So it's a large array of different, background, degree in economics. And so the wonderful thing is I found an entry in crypto that it kind of encompasses all of that, with metaverse stuff to, finance and decentralized finance. So to me, it really gravitated toward the space, and it was a great way to get back into the technology aspect. And so right now I'm working with DGB is what we call it for short. We put a show on every Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning on Pacific time. And we're basically where we talk about crypto and all things crypto or related. But right now we are looking at building AI and blockchain related, and also real estate property tech companies. So anyways, that's a little bit about us, and that's Draper Goren Blockchain Studio. Anyways, yeah, there's some questions I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And then, yeah, if you have time, maybe we can do some impromptu fireside pitches. You can give some people some feedback. I know you have some other meetings today. So we're going to go around the room right now. Just everyone is going to introduce themselves before we get into our keynote talk.
Start over here. Literally try just do like 10 seconds.
Good afternoon. Introduction. Hopefully, 5 seconds. My name is Mario, and I'm a crypto enthusiast. I'm learning about the technology.
and stuff like that.
I can do that because they're my friends. Hi, guys. My name's Art. I do Bitcoin and crypto stuff. I'm in the space on time. I do events. I do some OTC stuff in Bitcoin space, and I do NFTs also. He's on Bitcoin.
So I know some people don't want to be on camera. I know Art doesn't be on camera, so I need to point the camera, but if you, other than that, let me know, I want you to.
Camera's fine. My name is Bernard Bonomo. Good evening, everyone. I own a video agency called Bonomotion, as well as a media company called Lotopia, based in Brickell. Been doing production maybe 20 years, filmed every Bitcoin conference, Emerge America as a client. Lost a lot of money in Bitcoin and all that stuff that they paid me in crypto back in the day, and FTX and Voyager and all those things. But moving forward, I'm here, wanted to see the new space, obviously hear Jeff speak and meet some new friends and colleagues here in the area.
My name is Max O'Brien, been in blockchain since 2013. Started advising, then consulting. More recently, taking a keen focus on AI, full end-to-end AI from GPU and optimizing on-demand cloud services to products and services for enterprise solutions.
My name is Connor Walsh. I also work at Max at Decentralized Labs down here in Miami. I'm working on a problem right now, which is when you have a superstar talent at your company who's been working there for 4 or 5 years, he knows everything, knows all the processes, knows everything stored, knows how to communicate with different people. And then one day he leaves. What do you do? How do you retain the IP of that person when you're onboarding the next one? How do you manage the costs of training that new person at the time? That's what it's called Cognitive Brain.
My name is Omar Starr. I have a background in IT, Forex, and media, and AI curious.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Martin. I'm a content creator about life in Miami. And I'm very interested in AI and crypto.
Hello, my name is Michael Christine, and I'm both an attorney as well as a CEO of a blockchain entertainment company. Our mission is essentially to create blockchain games and a streaming platform where you don't just play as a character, you actually become the character by being able to stream and make content with our virtual streaming platform that literally you're playing as the character you're streaming at, and then we've integrated a digital asset marketplace, basically creating a tradable asset class within the digital asset ecosystem, where we're turning in-game assets into tradable assets that can now traverse across not only our games but also our various applications, allowing people to stream, make content, play, and interact online without actually having to show their face or reveal their identity. Basically bring the world of content creation to introverts, as well as this entirely new immersive gaming experience for the gamers of the world.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Nunez, and I'm Chief of Staff at Pure Venture Capital, where Jeff will give you more background on. But we've been in Miami for quite a while. So yeah, happy to see everyone.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kiva Chester. I'm an international real estate broker. I was the first in the state of Florida to post the property on the blockchain. From there, I started developing a SaaS application where everybody will be able to access real estate investment and close in a more productive, streamlined way. So that's my mission here, to connect with like-minded individuals.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Justin Mendez, co-founder of 161 Ventures. We do pre-seed and seed enterprise software and government technology. Usually writing checks 50 to 100,000 from super early stage. Also do J and Jab and fields and travelers.
Hi guys, my name is Dominic. I'm with Decentralized Labs as well with Max and Connor. I work on the Web3 side for blockchain. We do a lot of game development, if you want custom dexes, gambling protocols. We have a lot of different applications for that, for the Web3 portion. That's what I'm in charge of.
Hey, how's everybody doing? My name is Dmitry Azarenko. I have a background in consumer technology, B2B data company, and also ran a crypto protocol focused on data. Currently the co-founder of Top Tier Authentics, where we authenticate everything from sports memorabilia to apparel, as well as physical places. So we do stick to authenticity and verification of attendance. And we believe that in the future, every single item is going to come with a COA, and every single place or every single online digital place is going to come with a verification of attendance. So we're bridging the gap between the physical and the digital. We've already raised 2 rounds, 1 family and friends, and 1 pre-seed that were both oversubscribed. We work with some of the largest companies, including eBay, Amazon, and we've also had deals with University of Georgia, University of Michigan, which we just won the championship, and University of Tennessee. So we've become pretty ingrained in the NIL space. So we really think the future is the bridge between the physical and digital, and that's what we're trying to revolutionize here.
So I'm Frank Morier, I'm director and speaker for Preston and Partner, and we are the leader in the world of family office forums. And this is Alexandra, my assistant.
Hi, my name is Yasmin. I work with Florida Funders on the investment side, do B2B investments. Done a few on the crypto side, been a little quiet on that side for the past year or so, but let's see if we catch it up soon.
My name is Ina Apolia. I am an investment director with Scale AI, which is a federal funding that works specifically in supply chain. That's pretty much it.
Hi, my name is Krishna. I was in IT before and I worked for Motorola and all that, but lately in the last 2 years, I'm doing my wife to get law offices. I'm interested in AI, in healthcare, and specifically and this is my son, Yash, is probably the youngest here, is 15. And just recently, last month, he presented his science project, taking won a $10,000 business grant. So I dragged it to his first event, so don't scare him.
My name is Joshman. I'm a junior at FAU High School. I'm currently a founder of a startup that uses AI to help dental patients understand their SDC. And aside from that, I'm working with a science project to help prevent the algal bloom standards floating.
Here we go. Yeah, I'm Adnan, trying to make superhumans, and I'm also trying to create a club, or rather, an organization to find and fund the next Einstein, Oppenheimer, or Elon Musk.
Wow.
Yes, I believe so.
And Diana, you walked in.
Hi, I'm Diana Garcia. I'm a software developer. Drupal.
All right, so Diana won the human versus machine contest. We have a bunch of robots, like robot painter, dogs, humanoid, and she competed against a robot painter and she won. Oh, yes. So, Amelia, you want to just talk about Trinko and we'll start with the keynote?
Hi guys, can you hear me? I guess so. Hi, my name is Samantha Paparatna. I'm founder of Trinko. Trinko, what it does is it's empowering and catalyzing the adoption of emerging technologies. Before that, I was a biochemist. And after biochemist, I was in investment banking using the biotechnology knowledge. And I decided to venture out on my own and started a couple of healthcare companies. And actually, Trinko is set a nonprofit to help all the people that are in the startup world. As far as large conferences, we don't really get to have this intimate setting. Everybody speaks. We have wonderful Florida Ventures, Scale AI, people like Jeff, and we have David and then zooming in. That's very level on blockchain mentioned. None of these other big conferences, not to say that they're bad, but you don't get to really interact and engage and analyze all the early stages. Wonderful founders we have, especially in Miami. We don't get enough credit in Miami. We have a ton of founders here. So I really, my passion is to really grassroots movement, helping all the founders. And from the idea stage, what I like to call is the PowerPoint stage all the way up, because by the time you has post-seed, you don't really need help from venture capital. If you're smart enough, you know how to get the funding. The neat part is really is where you are at the idea stage, ideation, and pass all the way up to post-seed. After that, pretty much if you're smart enough, you get one. So put everybody together and have this interaction and engagement and helping all the emerging technologies. So that's what Trinco does. So welcome everybody. I'll be doing all different kinds of events in Miami. I did 21 events around the country last year, including Miami once a month, San Francisco, New York, Boston, and Austin. So it's going to be expanding to overseas also, especially focusing on emerging countries. So Jeff will be on board with me, I hope. And anybody else who wants to join me. And we're always open for, it's a nonprofit and not to sound as a pitch, but we're always open for sponsors, sponsorships and donations. So welcome and
Awesome.
Probably take it away.
Yeah, awesome. So just real quick about myself, I'm Prav. I've had a few exits. We had the first material science startup from Miami that exited in Silicon Valley. We invented light emitting glass and transparent solar panels and a few other startups as well. Right now, we host events in downtown Las Vegas once a month, Crypto Mondays down there. So I'm the head of the Miami and Las Vegas blockchain centers. So if you guys are going to come to Super Bowl, come on out. We actually have a NFL alumni startup pitch contest coming up for Super Bowl. All right, Jeff, it's you're on deck.
The man, the myth,
The legend.
the legend. So and David, feel free to wave your hands or to interrupt if you have something to say. Right.
Yeah, so I thought you. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. So what the hell is superhuman? I'd like to know what you're doing there. That was pretty good. If it was only a marketing statement, it was a pretty good one. So you got my interest. What is it that you do?
So basically, right now, okay.
Yeah.
All right, put on the spot here, huh? Okay. So, the general idea is that we're trying to extrapolate the properties of other organisms and apply it to others. So there's something called planaria or the immortal jellyfish. We have a mathematical formula to try and extrapolate those principles to other organisms like humans, dogs, cats, and so on. So I like to give the example of Venom from Spider-Man. If anyone's familiar with Venom from Spider-Man, it's this symbiotic creature that kind of attaches itself to Spider-Man, or not Spider-Man, to what's his name?
Peter Parker.
Not Peter Parker, but Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock is Venom and Spider-Man, right? So basically, it has the symbiotic relationship. Now in the comics and movies, it's this kind of parasitic thing where it gets control over it. Real symbiotic biology is a state of harmony almost, where there's a give and take between both systems. There's a complementary system. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to ship our product from the state of torpor or hibernation. In 2 to 3 years, what will happen is that will start to basically learn and adapt with your body, right? And then in 5 to 6 years, what can happen is it can start to almost become an extension of your nervous system, where you'll have more control over parts of your biology. So you can, in essence, have more cognitive control over your biology. You can heal cuts to cancer using your mind. Now, you don't just think and make it heal. It's not that simple. You have to go under certain, set of trainings and protocols that you can all do yourself about how to interpret all these signals you've never experienced before in your body, how to maneuver and manipulate inside of that new space that you're completely unfamiliar with. So in the future, what would happen is instead of potentially, risky and expensive pharmaceuticals or surgical interventions, which still have their places, by the way. We're not technically fighting against that. But what would happen is healing yourself or enhancing would be a form of a cognitive training, just like you learn to play an instrument or you learn a language. That's kind of the general direction where we want to push things. And this is a 20 to 30 year project, by the way. And then it's complementary to that, as I'm working on an incubator. It's called Ecolopto. We call it an incubator for ethically ambitious intellectuals. And our goal is to find and fund the next Einstein, Darwin, Oppenheimer, Elon Musk, etc. And our criteria of letting people into our cohort is based off of some research that I've done for a long time in cognition, because a part of understanding how to translate, you know, all these properties of different organisms one or the other, you have to understand how cognition works and how that has this top-down control over everything. So we have a very different approach to modeling consciousness, metacognition, intelligence, memory, divergent thinking, all these different measures. And that's kind of our secret sauce, you know, in terms of the people that we let in, because we want to be able to find the people that are truly, truly capable, and have a formalized, consistent way of finding those people. And that also would hopefully give us the biggest return on investment.
That's impressive, brother. I mean, what's cool about that, though, I mean, everybody, you know, kind of went around the room. And listen, this, we can do this however you want to. You know, I wanted to come in and support the community, support Amelia. I've been in the financial world for 31 years. Before that, I was a founder, like many of you in the room. I started 4 businesses, sold those businesses, and ended up on Wall Street for 20 years. So I've kind of done a lot of different things. I was an investment banker, I was a trader. I ran strategy for one of the largest firms on Wall Street for many years. I was in the same firm for 21 years, but I did a lot of different things there. And I left all that stuff simply because I felt that the world was moving very fast and changing very fast. All of you are an example of that. And I felt that the public markets, well, I don't feel like the public market has been shrinking for really since 1997, and that shrinkage is speeding up. And you know, the majority of, you know, the last role that I had about $269 billion of entrusted assets that I was ultimately responsible for. And I spent a lot of time, and I prided myself on having relationships with my biggest clients, and in visiting with them, it became very obvious that Ultra High Net Worth people and global families around the world were really looking for large institutions to get them invited to VIP tables that are really hard to get invited to unless you know someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows you and can get on your cap table. And so, you know, I've been an early investor in a lot of different companies. I've had some great success in my private portfolio, and so decided, instead of looking back in the mirror and discuss every day and kind of looking at my own life cycle, it was really hard though. The opium was really, really good. I mean, my bonuses were hard to walk away from, but I did, and started Fuel Venture Capital here in Miami in 2017. And none of you were here in 2017. You were? Okay. 2014. Well, you guys will remember that in 2017, this was a hospitality and real estate play. And when I decided to start Fuel here, really everybody who knew me in New York thought I had finally lost my mind, and call it luck, call it strategy. But you know, look at us. And I think that, and again, the reason I'm here, I think that Miami has an incredible opportunity to do some incredible things, but I think that there are a lot of things that are missing. And you know, we gotta get that figured out if we really want to take advantage of what it is that we have right now. And so, you know, it's hard. I mean, my team and I work really, really long hours, 80, 120 hours a week. So it's hard to always come out into the community and do things. But when I build relationships with people and they ask me to show up, I want to show up and be a part of the solution if I can. So, you know, listen, I don't know really where to take this. You know, my good friend Jeff, why don't you come up here? We can do some have some fun. So this is Justice. He's a good friend of mine. He's a venture capitalist himself. Justice has done some really cool things in his life, and again, just one of those guys. I'm a big fan of people who don't necessarily have a tremendous amount of, I'm going to call it privilege for lack of a better word. You know, they didn't grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth, and but always kind of had vision to make something better of their life and grind it out. I mean, this young man here has done that, so I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. And he's interviewed me for I don't know how many different times. So, you know, again, we can do a lot of different things, but he knows me really well. We can just go through the room and ask questions, you know, we can have Justice ask me a couple of things. We can run this already, and I think having him up here with me is good too, because he's an earlier investor than I am. He's better at it than I am in the early stages.
I just had one question.
Yeah.
With like 2024 and the community, what are your like most interested areas of growth, like what areas are you looking into for the greatest growth and just your own interest, you know? Myself.
Yeah, well, but the question is, from my perspective, looking in 2024, what does Fuel Venture Capital what are we leaning into?
Yeah.
Said another way, as far as verticals go. So we're very, again, I come from the public markets. It's very pragmatic. It's extremely the governance and the regulation is very high. My partner is a former long-short global hedge fund manager. So I share that with you just because I think it adds a little bit of like, what are we leaning in on, right? So we're probably a little bit boring, to be frank. So our main four verticals, we have a new fund, it's our fourth fund. We're raising it right now. It's a $200 million asset. We're 150 million of the raise. Hopefully we'll close this in, the next, before May. We've already had a closing. We've invested in 7 different companies. Those 7 different companies are in 4 different verticals. And that the fund is really going to be focused on, and that is fintech. It's a domain expertise of ours. It's where we come from. We just truly believe that people are going to continue to transact differently tomorrow than they were today. And this new fund already has some of the biggest names in fintech on the planet that is, already part of the portfolio. I don't know if you've ever heard of Curve, but we're one of the biggest investors in Curve. It's one of the coolest fintechs, I think. And I don't know if you've seen it, but we just launched our wearables. So if you have any smart device, a smart ring, smartphone, phone, obviously, smartwatch, and now even Ray-Ban's come out with a partnership with Meta on intelligent eyewear. So you can go anywhere and, go to dinner and have a great time. And at the end of the dinner, just tap your ring on the reader and, it's done. So things like that I think are super interesting. Ricardo Pay, that's a Miami company, if you've heard of that. It's the biggest, like, if you know anybody from Brazil and you bring up the name Ricardo Pay, they'll look at you like you changed their life. It's incredible what this company and these founders have actually done to improve people's life in Brazil. And we're one of the largest investors of that company as well. So fintech is a big play. Enterprise SaaS is another domain expertise of ours, very, very heavily focused on that. I think that the enterprise workplace is going to change tremendously. So I think you're in a really good place. I mean, I think
That's interesting.
Yeah,
My background is in fintech. I focus mostly on stablecoin and token issuance systems and filed some patents with the premier blockchain patent law firm. We got Web2 front end and Web3 back end. Mostly because I was looking at banks and governments. We spoke to about 13 different nations to figure out what they wanted to do. And also looked at the next iteration, once banks and governments put regulation in place and you have room for institutional adoption, how are users really going to interact with this? And I believe it's going to be walletless. I think the wallets are going to be managed by the companies issuing tokens or issuing that service so they can control the whole system, what's going on the value exchange side. And I think users are going to log into an app and be able to just have a digital account and a synthetic token inside. That's a reflection of real value behind games, issuing an NFT. Why would you put that in your custody and make you subject to all of this? So did that, and then more just recently focused on the AI, just because last year I was helping raise money for OpenAI. We were doing some employee shares, venture partner with the family office, selling sub value like 45 bills, 60 bills. I think it was 50 million at 45, 100 at 60. the company had just raised in 90, so it moved quickly. But in that process, I looked at the entire beginning of OpenAI. Simultaneously, my partner sent us our new AI products, and I can't believe how far more robust and ahead he was in some of these really big AI companies. And so instantly I was like, okay, I think we actually have something here. This is someone I've seen be a really innovative multiple times, but we're launching in about 2-3 weeks. Our own funding, we're open to raising, but not begging for money right now. Our backbone is more of a dev shop, so keep the devs busy, done a bunch of client projects, collect all that IP, and then keep innovating. So we can either upsell that client or invest that tech in a new startup. So we built a full SaaS consolidated platform.
Let's keep the conversation going.
Hey guys, so
Yeah.
just of keeping the time,
Right.
we have to go by 8 o'clock, and
So-
I have the panel here, so let's get the panel up. You have enough chairs? Yeah.
Well,
So-
I was gonna ask a few questions for.
Can you put another chair? No, I'll give you another chair.
What were the other two sectors though? What were the other two sectors?
The other two sectors?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Clearly very scrappy.
Yeah.
Everybody's not there.
You got it though.
Yeah, I mean, I can ask one question, I guess. No, you can sit here, no, you sit here, I'll grab one of these. Yeah, please.
Yeah, it makes us feel better, skinny.
This is,
There's.
Go ahead. I would never do that to you.
yeah, so I'm gonna ask, at least that's one question. Yeah, so once it's one ventures, you see early stuff, he has media background, enterprise SaaS, GovTech. But more about the fintech, I want to double click on that. How do you feel about people like JPM, right? Either purchasing or launching their own product lines? And I know right now people are kind of thinking about defensibility. So when you're investing in these companies, are you looking through exits being by another bank, a JPM, and having that be one of their internal products that they're launching? Or are you thinking that these might be, standalones that are eventually going to IPO?
Yeah, so one of the things, that we do, again, I keep saying this, but we come from a very pragmatic world. So when we ultimately make an investment into a company, the investment committee actually has to have, we have to have an understanding of where we think that company is actually ultimately going to monetize. In my business is to create revenue or not revenue, return on investment for those on myself. So we will actually, from the moment that we make the first investment, have an understanding of where we think that company will go. We're either going to sell that company to another larger, maybe it's a JP Morgan, maybe it's I'm in the process of selling a company to PayPal right now. And that discussion about PayPal was actually in the investment committee when we made the investment. Well, we felt that was a company that would not go IPO. So that's really, there's only 2 ways to monetize a startup. You're going to sell it to another company or you're going to take it public. And so we made that decision at that time. And when we invested in this particular company, I can't tell you which one it is because what's going on right now, but what are the companies that are out there that could benefit from knowing about our company? And then there's a list of companies that get put on the playbook. And then whoever's the champion of that company is responsible for making sure that that list gets introduced to our company. And that's kind of what we call, getting people pregnant with our company. And ultimately, that works very well for us. And ultimately, one of them will more than likely buy our company, 4 or 5 years into the future. And that's not, or if it's an IPO, we will begin having discussions with investment banks that are, have a specialty in that particular vertical. We'll make those introductions and, keep the relationship going and moving forward and ultimately, a decision. We have another one of our fintechs that is going to go public in the 4th quarter of this year. And again, those decisions were made 5 years ago. So it's kind of cool how it works.
I believe I know your answer, knowing you well enough, but how do you kind of see the public markets trending out? How many companies do you think are going to start to come back, going public versus acquisition?
You know, it's funny, I'm getting a lot of questions about M&A for 2024. I've been on a couple of, you know, CNBC and Charles Schwab. It's like the thing of, because 2023, the capital markets just shut down. I mean, if you were an investment banker last year, you didn't get any bonuses. I mean, it literally just shut down. And, but there's a lot of things I think that we are at Fuel very optimistic about for 2024. There's really 4 main drivers that are driving that optimism. Number one is just investor mentality at the moment, right? I mean, if you think about what happened in 2022, 2023, if you're a founder, you understand it's been pretty tough. And that's simply because, you know, we went through the first bear market that we've seen in 15 years. So most of you have never seen a down market, right? What the hell is that? You know, it's a party every day, right? Capital was abundant prior to that.
0% interest, right?
Yeah,
Free cash.
and now it's very difficult, right? But the sentiment for investors now, that was largely because inflation, you know, hit numbers that we haven't seen since the 80s. Right, so we went from basically nothing to, you know, went up 7x. And investors don't like that. It's a lot of uncertainty. What typically happens to an investor from a mentality perspective is they'll hunker down inside their burrows and they'll kind of wait till the bulls start running across the pasture again. It's the worst thing that they should do, but that's what they do. So I think most people have a pretty good understanding of where we think interest rates are going to be going. There's a lot of speculation that we could see, you know, some cuts in the 4th quarter of this year. And so investors are starting to come out from hiding. So that's one thing. Second thing is change is oftentimes viewed as optimistic. I think, and again, this isn't to try to get into a political discussion, and I hope that I don't piss anybody off by saying this, but for me, and I can care less, it's just, it seems to me that we're probably going to see a change in the White House. And so, you know, I think that investors, at least they feel like there's going to be some optimism. If you believe in all this stuff, but typically a Republican president, if there was a change, it would be a Republican, and a Republican president tends to like low interest rates, and they like giving tax breaks, and that drives, you know, growth for all of us as founders. So that, depending again how you view all that stuff, so I think that's another driving force. And then I think one of the biggest things for us that we are driving the optimism is simply supply and demand. So there was an article that was put out about 2 weeks ago by PitchBook, which had great analytics, by the way. And this data suggested that right now there's over $1 trillion of value in private equity companies that are just kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to go public. $1 trillion of value. So I've never in my career, I've never seen that kind of backlog. And so just the simple supply and demand, I think, is going to work its way. And I'm pretty good friends with the chairman of NASDAQ. They have a full docket of companies that are going to be going public this year. The New York Stock Exchange Vice President in Davos said that they have a full docket of companies that are planning to go public across a number of different verticals. So it seems to me that 2024, the capital markets have turned back on. I don't think it's going to be till Q3, Q4. You know, I think as we get closer to the election and that becomes a more certainty, you'll see a lot more action. I think Q1 and Q2 are going to continue to be uncomfortable for us all. But that's what we are. That's a macro view from Fuel.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us and coming out to support the community. You know, we have several other guests as well. So I think maybe we can switch over your mic to. Okay. Yeah.
I'm always ready to go. Should I go? Yeah, well, yeah, you stay there too. Sit there? Okay. I'll share this little box. David, you can unmute yourself now, you're part of this family.
I can unmute myself. You want me to talk?
Yeah, and do a magic trick for us while you're at it. So this is our main part of the night now, and we'll probably be limiting questions for after the panel. So save them so they can complete their thoughts. But yeah, this is so exciting. I think we'll let each investor introduce themselves briefly, and then maybe you can just tell us about like how you got to Miami, like your educational background, how you get into VC. You know, the backstory is always like really interesting, but I think usually rarely talked about as well. So
On the spot, great.
yeah, I
So background, educational background.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, I think, you know, we have a high school student here, you know,
Right.
and other like early stage.
More
trying to, yeah, so I think, I agree. I mean, just wherever you think, obviously, the things that like we find interesting about David are some of the things that he might not find interesting by himself.
Like the map.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Like, not an additional person. So as I mentioned before, I part of a fund that invests specifically in AI supply chain. I got to Miami, not because unfortunately I didn't see, the opportunity the way you did. I just sort of followed my personal life and, Hassan. And that's why I ended up here. Background, educational background, actually lived 15 years in Toronto, went to University of Toronto. Did my MBA here at HBS, and by training, I'm a management consultant. And sort of started, and in Canada, we have this federal fund that, invests in AI because we saw the opportunity there. I don't think a lot of governments have seen it back then, it started in 2017. I think Israel sort of saw it, we did, and obviously the US is really booming right now. But that's how I ended up in AI, and I think it's one of the most promising fields that exists right now, which is not saying much. But I'll pass it on to Yas.
Yep, so my name's Yasmin, I'm with Florida Funders. And background pretty mixed, I've done a bunch of different things, so I've been a founder, done some consulting, and worked for some big, large organizations like NGOs, etc. So pretty mixed. Moved to the US in 2019, and somehow accidentally ended up in Miami during the pandemic. It was not on purpose, but I'm glad I did. And I've been here for a little over 3 years now.
Hey everyone, I'm Dudu Lucina. I am the founder and general partner of Alumni VC. We invest exclusively in Palantir alumni founders. How I ended up in Miami is I heard that in Miami they like refugees from failing communist states. So out of San Francisco. Prior to starting Alumni VC, I ran an investor relations agency working with early stage founders, helping them raise money and manage investors. Before that, I headed up investor relations at Palantir. I raised $1.2 billion across the Series J and Series K rounds. Yes, the alphabet runs that far. The founders in the room. Prior to that, I worked for sovereign wealth fund in the Middle East, investing about $200 million into venture capital as an asset class, both into VC funds and private startups. Before that, I spent a year and a half traveling around the world. If you want to chat, 3 festivals in Spain. Covered, spent some time working in Ghana as part of that. And then before that, I was in Australia. I started my career as an investment banker and an equity investor. And my undergrad is in actuarial studies. Is that what you call it, represent?
No, excellent. And David, we already, you did your background already. So I think I'll just get it started, but this can be a free flowing roundtable. So I know people have been talking about there's a dearth of VC funding now compared to like 2021, for example. Part of that is there's, not like Jeff was alluding to, not as much ability to exit the public market. So what do you see is your forecast for 2024, and how could that affect the Miami startup community?
I spend the bulk of my time at the very early stage. Say about half of them now have not been able to the company yet. Half of those don't even have a product name. So pretty early stage, I've not seen a slowdown in information. I've seen a slight slowdown in how long it takes to close a VC round, but not a significant one. So maybe 2 to 3 weeks longer than a VC round. I've seen the rounds shrink in size, but they're still getting done. And frankly, it feels like both VCs and founders are actually happier with the smaller round and getting more aggressive capital, a little bit less dilution. I have seen a little bit of a slowdown in the frequency and also shrinking of the late stage stuff. So a company that raised, say, a Series C or a Series D would previously have assumed that 14 months later they get preempted with a term sheet for the next round. That is no longer happening. Folks are coming back and saying, well, hey, you raised a Series B 18 months ago. I want to see your forecast. And then let's see how you track to that. People are paying a lot more attention to net revenue, but also to the quality of that revenue. Services, how sticky are those customers? Are you actually keeping the products that get paid for going, or are they paying for legacy products that you got to sunset? I forecast us being busier this year than we were last year, and the year prior to that. Probably make more early stage investments and lower valuation, and that teams a lot earlier. We're now backing 2-person teams. Much more frequently where before we've been waiting for 3 or 4 person teams.
So you mentioned you invest primarily in Palantir alumni. So how does that translate to backing a multi-person team? It's like just one person has to be
Companies that are founded or led by Palantir alum, either a C-suite executive or at least one
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah, I think I alluded to it quite deeply, but we're more later stage. We'll come in Series A all the way to exit. We don't do really early stuff like you do, so I can't speak to that. I would say that in the world that we are in, it has been brutal for the last 18 months. As you were saying, if you led a Series B or Series A or Series C, B or C, we might have had a significantly higher valuation in 2021. And now you're looking to raise money, and investors are just absolutely cutting your legs off. You're having to do a down round, you're having to do a recap, you're having to do a pay for play. I mean, we have participated in 5 places just in the last year. Meaning if we don't invest, we lose 80% of our investment. So it's just really been brutal. And I pray to the gods that it changes very quickly, but that's kind of been the.
So, I mean, is that any different than the old SPAC world, or is it?
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with SPAC. Of course, they have most SPACs. They could have gotten unjustly, brutalized in public markets. I think it's a great way for companies to go public. I don't really understand why people are so down on it, but no, it really wouldn't want anything to do with. I mean, SPACs got destroyed. Late stage tech got destroyed. Not destroyed, but just much more difficult than we had before the bear market came into play. And I don't know that that's really going to change for a while. I think that there's been a power shift, right? So if you think about it again, just go back to your pure economics, supply and demand. Before the bear market in 22, all of us as investors would come to a company that we really liked, and the founder could almost control the terms and the valuation and everything else. If you want to be on my cap table, then this is the way it's going to be. If you don't, that's fine, because there's 7 other people who want to get on the cap table and are willing to take my terms. So, but that power shifted to the investor in 2022. And now the investor's coming to that founder and saying, hey, you got me in 21, but I'm gonna get even now. And we're gonna, you know, I paid 150 million valuation on that last round, but I'm only willing to come in maybe 70 million, 50 million. And that's happening every single day. So it's different, right? If you don't, and what does the investor say? If you don't like that, that's fine. You know, we've got 7 other founders who are looking for capital right now. And so it's a very, very interesting psychology, I think, that's going on. And it's just about supply and demand. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. The one interesting thing though is there's $380 billion of capital that has been committed by investors to fund managers like us that is sitting in dry capital today, going all the way back to 2019. So that capital has got to work its way back into the marketplace, or it's got to be returned to the investors after a 5-year investment phase. So that leaves about $80 billion that has to go into the marketplace this year, or it has to be returned. So to me, that basically means there's going to be a lot of capital going into the system, and this window of value that investors can pick up is going to start to close.
Yeah, that's pretty great insight. And do you see that trend continuing throughout the year, or do you see like the first half? Or I know the interest rates are supposedly going to change sometime this year.
So from the investor's perspective, we have been able to strike really good deals for incredible assets, which ultimately at the end of the day benefit our investors significantly. Right? The fund I was telling you that we're raising right now is already audited upticked 2.3x. Right, so if you come into my fund right now with $1 million, the day your money hits my bank account, it's worth $2,300,000. That's pretty damn good. So investors really like that. But that's because we were able to invest in assets at a much cheaper price than you would normally do so. And those companies continue to do really well. And as a result, you know, you have uptick valuation. That window, I think, is going to close though by Q3, Q4. And we're not going to, because again, it's going to be people like the 4 of us fighting it out, the 5 of us, there's 4 of us, fighting it out, trying to get on the cap table. And I think that's going to be Q4. So right now, a lot of people ask me, what keeps me up at night? What keeps me up at night is just being able to raise enough capital as quickly as I possibly can so that I can deploy it into great companies at a great value.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. And
No, yeah, it's fine, yeah. She said we have a call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that time. Well, listen, it was really nice to meet all of you, and I'm going to leave you with people who are a hell of a lot better at all this stuff than me anyway. So
great. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Yeah, and now we can start the real meeting. What?
I'll ask the question.
Okay. Sure. Ina, do you want to? Yeah.
I don't think anybody's remember the question. Yeah, that question against.
Sure.
You know what? We have a couple of minutes, so I'll take questions from the audience. Put your hand up if you've got a question. Can we open up the card? Drop the card, see you.
One thing that was interesting about
someone working in on these things.
What I find most interesting about being a venture capitalist, I just basically get to talk to really smart people every day that tell me what their vision for the future is and why the thing they're building matters. And so every day I learn about some minutia of a part of our economy and part of our civilization. And that is very intrinsically interesting.
The idea that someone can start from something that's like literally zero and you're there with them from the beginning and they are so obsessed about it and this is like their baby, they invest their nights, they invest everything, they have a family and they're just like they want to make this work. And you're there and that's probably the most wonderful thing you can do. It's obviously I'm not comparing myself to doctors who actually say this.
So can you guys give us some examples of some investments you made in the Miami ecosystem? And I know David, I know you guys have as well. I know Superworld, AR, some other startups you invest in Miami, and maybe the process of how of the whole journey from the first pitch to writing the check. David, you can chime in.
No, I'll go first. Actually, funny enough, Superworld actually came to one of my meetups in Sacramento. Back when when COVID happened, we went on Zoom as part of our meetups and met them there. And then we were also part of Blockchain and Booze, and so I made the introduction, and then eventually it sounds like Lon made the investment into Superworld. So it's, a lot of it's all about relationships a lot of times.
And how did that pitch go? Like, what did they do to strike your fund's interest?
I don't know because I wasn't part of that at the time, so I can't speak on that. But yeah.
Fair enough.
What they're doing was not what you'd expect, like they were looking at medical gowns and figuring out if there's a defect within medical gowns. Now we're talking 2020 when medical gowns were like gold. So when they pitched to us, we didn't even look at the technology initially, we were like, medical gowns, that's it. And then we actually dealt with due diligence of the tech. And again, this is quite early. We didn't know really what was not me. And since then they've done really, really well. The next thing they did was like picking peppers on a farm. So, it's you invest in something and the applications are.
So that's really interesting. I understand the medical gowns, perhaps from, early COVID, there was a scarcity, but if that happened today, right, would that be enough of a potential ROI for your fund?
Probably not, so it was more opportunistic. I mean, we should still do it today because the technology was super, and again, as I mentioned, health applications way beyond the initial use case. We probably wouldn't have been as incentivized or we didn't have focused a lot on the technology. Which again, it worked out, but it also tells you that a lot of the time you might be more focused on mission than on the tech.
So just from our earlier introductions, this seems to be several healthcare entrepreneurs. So what are the type of questions would be typical in their pitch? Like, would they be asked for clinical trials, or what would they have to present to you?
We're very first in our investment. So we invest fundamentally in supply. So whether it's medical equipment or whether it's a medical use case or it's transportation, we don't care as much. Fundamentally, we care about the tech. So do we feel like the tech will have it? Now the medical gowns example was just a funny one because we really did focus more on the application rather than the tech. But normally we do focus mostly.
Cool. And Yasmin, I know for the name of your fund, Florida Funders, are you what is it about Florida itself that made your fund very Florida specific? Is it your LPs are in Florida, or why Florida?
that makes us give when there's like a more bigger deal coming in here, for some reason, from Texas to Miami, we can get involved because we have that huge network here. So it's definitely a value add, but again, that's outside. Well,
So tell me if this is true, false, or used to be true. Like it used to be the case that Florida-based entrepreneurs, like myself included, would have to go to Silicon Valley to really be taken seriously or to raise a reasonable round. Like, how is it now?
If you look at like how we are now, a lot of teams are fully remote, but I see a lot of teams who come here half of the year, they might be based in Europe, and this is go somewhere else, but they have some base here, which is interesting, so you get access to all these different founders. But I think it's changed. I do think that I have seen people going back to move here, go back, for example, San Francisco. So I think San Francisco is still a very important ecosystem. So is New York. I think Miami is a new ecosystem. I think there's a lot of great things that's going to happen here, but it's still small and it's still growing. It's going to take some years, but I think it's not going to go away.
Right. And then this is a question for everyone, including David. So once you invest or you show interest in a company, how do you support the entrepreneur after an investment or right pre-investment to get them ready for investment? Do you attend the board meetings in person? Do you give potential mentorship? Like, what is it? What's the value add that your funds give to the entrepreneurs? And vice versa as well. What have you been learning from the Florida entrepreneurs that you might not have seen or expected from other places?
So we prefer not to leave rounds of companies. So the first very pragmatic value add that our companies get from us is we help them find that lead and literally have a database of all the VCs we want to invest with, where I track how many investments and refer to them. And I also track how quickly they got back to me on the last double opt-in intro. VCs know this. Founders know that VCs know this. VCs know that founders know that VCs know this. So if you want to get a response in the same business day from a top tier VC firm, asking me to send it is a good way to do that. All the VCs that we work with know that if you want to get 5 out of 5 score sheet, you have to reply the same business day. 4 out of 5 is next business day.
Yeah, I love the twinkle when you say this. It's almost like we're in a documentary right now, like Halt and Catch Fire style. But Ina?
Ours is a bit more different because we, as I mentioned before, mostly focus on Canada, sort of the states. In terms of the funding itself, and with those, we're not very involved with board meetings, and we're a lot more hands off. Now that has changed the last year, just because the burden of proof is a lot higher for the investments, and our follow-up is a lot, more meticulous. But we try to be more hands-off with founders because we fundamentally believe they know what they're doing. Now, the value add that we provide, quite honestly, is cash. We don't try to tell the founder what they need to do. We do facilitate introductions with their customers. Customers are the cheapest form of financing. So we'll try to get their first customer in. We de-risk the first investment that they do have with the customer. But we don't try to either hold their hands or, be obsessive about obviously on a quarterly basis for projections, but I've seen growth funds who will contact the founder every 2 weeks.
So what is it about the water in Toronto that makes people such great entrepreneurs up there? I mean, I've met so many. Yeah. That and Waterloo as well. Yeah.
Sorry, that's not Toronto, it's still Canada. You have really great talent, and they have great transfer offices, which I think University of Miami is trying to do right now as well. really good transfer offices will commercialize what they have from academia into actual startups.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Even like later stage Toronto companies are here. I mean, they're not necessarily looking for funding, but they just have offices here. I always wondered about that. And you go around Silicon Valley, they're not as prominent, maybe because you can't notice them as much, so many companies out there, but you definitely see the Toronto entrepreneurs and they're so friendly. I guess that's the trope of Canadians. They'll come to our hackathons, they'll win, but they won't be obnoxious about it. So that's great. Yeah, we've been to Scarborough. We had to I don't want to talk about myself. Yeah, we were up there, and then a lot of Indo-Canadian startups. I think we have a joke that Indians should only go where mangoes can grow. So they're always down in Miami. So Dave, I know you're based in Sacramento.
Yeah. Well, we're based all over.
Okay.
We have people out of New York, people in Detroit, LA, myself out of Sacramento. So we are we like to be early in, right? We are looking for that team who is maybe there's a tech person, there's a who's a developer, there's the sales guy who has the vision, and then there's a business opportunity, the business ops guy, right? Who's handling day-to-day operations. Obviously, we want to find a path to revenue, path to generating income. But a lot of times at the early stage when we're first entering in, there usually is just an idea, right? And they've hardly scratched the surface on even building their pitch deck, right? And so it's figuring out what is your TAM, your SAM, and your SUM, total addressable market, your serviceable available market, and your serviceable obtainable market. So we're working with people typically where it's still so early that they're still trying to figure out that part of it, right? And helping them narrow that down. And then figuring out, what is the problem and issue being solved, and how you're solving that problem, because your pay in life should be equal to the problem and the value that you're bringing to the table in solving that problem. So we like to think that we're complementing the teams that we're working with, right? We typically want to come in as with, our stake would be, founder shares. We want to be right there alongside with you. So if you're diluted as an owner, we're also diluted, that we come alongside and we're there for you. So if your branding needs a help, a reface on the branding, that we're there to help support you in that process of getting you off the ground in hopes to later on, be there when you're doing a Series A, a Series B, a Series C, right? And being along that whole process. Our vision is more of a 5 to 10 year, thought process is how we look at it.
So Dave, I know one of the unique things that you guys do is you've actually taken quite a few Miami founders to San Mateo, and you put them up in Tim Draper's hotel for a few weeks. And there's quite a few founders in Miami, well known, like Albert Santello, that did the whole, I guess I call it summer camp. I'm sure you call it something else, hanging out bunk beds with all the other founders. So what was the impetus of doing it that way, of having an accelerator where we're all living together, almost like a reality show?
I can't answer for you because I'm fairly new to the Draper family.
That's fine. No worries. But
from what I'm understanding, the part that we are, because Draper has a big network, right? And so we are one facet of that. We focus in AI, crypto, blockchain, I should say, and we also do a lot of property tech. We think that we're going to see a lot of movement in the property tech sector with RWAs and everything else like that. At least maybe not in Miami, but California has new bills coming in. There's a bill called AB 39 that takes effect in 2025 for California, which is for the licensing of those who are managing digital financial assets. So at least for myself, I see that I believe we're going to see institutions start coming into the space and, in about 2025. Unfortunately, we had, the last year or two, we saw the FTXs, the Celsiuses, the Voyagers completely ruin the public's vision of crypto, right? And I think that needs to be reestablished. And I think we will see that through probably these institutions that are starting to come in, as we are seeing BlackRock do these ETFs and stuff like that for Bitcoin right now.
Sure. So let's just bring up something we had in our call yesterday. Tim Draper was actually here during Art Basel, and he did a big reality show televised pitch contest on South Beach. And there are quite a few well-known Miami entrepreneurs who got to pitch him. And his some of his advice was pretty brutal, pretty harsh, but very useful. Things that like, and I know one of the things that came up, and we talked to Jeff about this earlier today, was we talked about like, don't be unfocused. Like, don't put all this random stuff you're so proud of. Like, you wrote a novel, you know, you have all these other businesses that you've done, you know, because he basically told the founders, it just makes you sound like a hobbyist, and this is your latest little hobby. You're going to lose interest soon. So what type of other advice have you picked up from Tim Draper that you
Well, that's true though, right? One of the biggest things we want to know is where's your commitment, right? Are you doing this as a part-time job, or have you dropped your job and went full-time into what your vision is in building this business, right? That is, I think, a big thing in regards to is a VC going to invest in you? If they're going to invest in you, they don't want to think that you're still working your day job and trying to get this business off the ground. They want to know that you've gone all in, right? And that this is 100% what your vision is, and that you actually believe in this so much that you're taking that, you know, all the way.
Right. So I know some of our panelists will have to leave soon, so I'll let them do. Whoever has to leave would have to. You're welcome to do your closing monologue, and then we'll continue with the people who can stay. Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Biggest differentiator between the 10x to 50x to 100x return on investment founding teams versus the founding teams that just return the money in the fund? Is it the team itself? Is it the product? Is it a combination of things? What kind of insights could you provide us on that?
David, could you actually hear what he said, or do I have to repeat it?
No, I can't hear at all what the audience is saying.
So yeah.
Maybe a microphone.
Founder who returns 10 or more to the fund versus a founder it's just kind of break even investment or money losing investment. I think some of it is indeed down to chance. So a company that returns 100x and a company that returns 0x can look quite similar. It means that they went for the high risk approach. Because if you don't go to the risk move, you are not going to end up in 50x. You might end up in 2x or 5x, but not at 50. But the difference between, say, 1 or 2x and the 10x is mainly the caliber of the team. Some of the things I look for is a very technical team. It means that you can run for longer without having to take more funding because you don't need to hire engineers. You can build the product yourself. That means that for a given set amount of funding, you can do more pivots to get to your product fit. The reason that I invested in the Palantir ecosystem is we have 200 startups that exist today that are founded or led by Palantir alone, and 8 of them are unicorns. Like 200 different experiments in going from 0 to 1, and then 9 experiments, including Palantir, going from 1 to 1,000. So when it's time for you to hire, you have this great ecosystem from which to hire people who complement your strengths, people that you can get great references on, and people who've literally done this exact thing before, people who buy bigger companies, people who have signed $100 million plus contracts, people who have signed big companies' first $1 million contract, people that have built a backend to be stable to 10,000 users. These are all problems that we've encountered within the ecosystem. And you can hire the people that have done it before. You can go and chat to the people that have done it before. Who can tell you who to hire or who not hire. And it just de-risks so many of the decisions that you have to make as an early stage founder.
I think if you look at different types of ideas, I like to use idea flow. So you have ideas that look bad and are bad. So this is Tinder. That's worse. So that's such a bad idea. We don't want to invest there. Then we have ideas that look good and are actually good. Those ones tend to be too obvious a lot of the time. So there's lots and lots of competition. So that's not great. What VCs a lot of time end up investing in is that ideas that look good but actually are bad. So what you wanna find is ideas that actually look bad, but are really good, and an example of that is Airbnb. Think of like, they were like, hey, here's this great idea, you can sleep on a blow-up mattress in people's living room, you're like, that sounds like a terrible idea, but actually it's one of the most successful startups of our time. So I think, kind of piggyback on that, taking the risk and actually looking for these ideas that are a little out there and different is not a bad approach to get to those 100x returns.
I think maybe just come up here because otherwise we'll have to repeat it anyway.
Hello, yes, thank you. So my question is going into 2024, a lot of the venture capitalists that we've been talking to literally just this past week, one question that's been coming up over and over again is who already invested into you, or where did you raise money from before? And a lot of the times, or we're very fortunate enough for my company for the last 2.5 years, we haven't had to take any money from anybody. We were able to actually sell some product, reinvest that money into the company, and then obviously our own sweat equity and putting it in because we're a very technical team. So my question to you is, from a VC standpoint or an investment standpoint, are people looking more so for these companies that have had like any kind of like lead rounds or investment rounds, even if it's pre-seed or anything like that, versus a company who's been able to do everything and bring themselves to the customer onboarding point of the process, still pre-revenue, but on their own accord, essentially with their bootstrapping themselves with their own products and their own sales, and then obviously their own talents.
Never have I ever said no to a good opportunity because they didn't have a prior investment with a really big name. As a matter of fact, like that's great. You're scrappy, you're resourceful, and you figured out how to get a low burn rate and enough money to do it on your own. So I think we look for how obsessed you are with your product rather than if you have Sequoia on your cap table. We're trying to stay away from stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. Don't have to be, it's actually a good thing through bootstrap. Of course, it can be like, oh, it's impressive to have some big names, but then on the other hand, valuations have to be insane.
Great. So if you guys can answer what's the one thing that founders should not do when they're pitching in?
Play video games?
Just not be gamers in general?
I married a gamer, so I guess I can't say that's a valid concern.
Yeah. I feel I host all the video game developer meetups down in South Florida, but I think I feel attacked.
Unless the video game is what you're pitching.
Yeah. And David up there, he's taught me a lot about metaverse video games. So yeah.
I would say about founders doing.
I think a word of wisdom to all founders is that a good VC wants you to have a good pitch. A good VC will give you multiple opportunities to rescue a pitch. Sometimes you will just have a bad day. I like to tell founders, look, it takes about 70 outbounds to get a Series A term sheet signed. That's how much it took Jeff Bezos. So unless you think you're significantly better than that, it's not a lot. And if it takes 70 outbounds, obviously not 70 face-to-face pitches, but you will just have a bad day. The sign of a great VC is they'll try and pull you out of it, try to get you back on track, try to get you comfortable, try to redirect. No one wants you to have a bad pitch. There's a very famous story of Mike Mason Jr. missing the opportunity to invest in Airbnb because the guys turned up late. And they were both designers. They met at design school. They only had Macs. This was back in the early days, and the floodgate offices didn't have all the Mac dongles for their projection equipment. And so the founders that turned up with their Mac laptops, planning to show the slideshow. The laptops were running out of power. They couldn't use the chargers in the office, the plug-in offices, they didn't have any Mac chargers.
Yeah, they shouldn't be playing video games early in the morning, wasted their batteries.
Couldn't project to the TV screen. And basically it had to explain the opportunity on a tiny laptop screen, which was rapidly running out of power. They were flustered, they were tired, and they just had a bad pitch.
Okay.
And Mike Maples Jr. didn't get it. He was like, they were rude, they were slovenly, they were ill prepared, and also this is a terrible idea. It sounds terrible. And he missed it, and he talked about this publicly, and then kicking himself to this day. Every single VC in the market knows that story and has a similar story from their own firm. They don't want to be kicking themselves. They will give you that opportunity to be like, you know what, this is not going well. It looks like you're busy. Let's reschedule for later in the day for this Zoom. Like, hey, let's take a 5-minute break. Go to the bathroom. I'll go get you some more. But they will try and get you rescued so that they can hear the best story you can tell.
So Ina, I'll let you answer the same question, but also for you, since you have so much experience with the Toronto ecosystem, with all the great startups up there. So one of the things that I noticed for Miami is the accelerators, the incubators, especially the ones that were here pre-COVID, like 500 startups types that aren't even here anymore. They're all focused on day zero type questions, right? Like basically how to perfect your pitch, like get it within 30 seconds or 5 minutes, whatever, but that doesn't help you day one after you get your investment, right? So what advice can you give founders for day one after you get your investment to actually be successful? And to give you some context, we have Product Hunt South Florida down here, basically the Product Hunt chapter. And that's the common question, because they're actually, these founders aren't necessarily even startups. They might be, established companies, but they're just focused on building stuff. And they don't need to hear about what font to use on a PowerPoint. They want to actually just run a company. So what have you seen from your experience in Toronto and just in general for that? And also, what's the bad idea that we shouldn't do as well? The other question.
So it also ties to your question about mindful that you should always give anyone chances on. But if someone just oversells the product, there's this fine line between someone who's like really strong in their product and someone who's just full of themselves. And sometimes it's really hard to know which one it is, because the person can be extremely full of themselves with a really good product, but because they come up so obnoxious, your initial instinct is defensive and it's sort of like, oh, I don't want to invest in this. So it's how do you portray that you're passionate about your product and that actually you understand what it is, because a lot of times actually if the CEO does not, the owner of the product, they will not understand what the product does quite well into the right details. But if you can convey that passion without sounding arrogant, I think you endear yourself quite a bit to VCs, and you sound confident, you sound like you got it. And I think that's sort of the winning way, whether you get flustered, whether that day might not be a good day, totally agree, but if you can show that, that's a win. We don't have that in Toronto. So the accelerator in Toronto, or I should say Canada-wide, they're very good at grilling you on product market fit. They're really good at grilling you on your hiring sort of plans, on ensuring the stickiness of the customer and what's your churn, on making sure that back to David's point on total addressable market. So the minute you graduate any program, you have a toolkit that's actually quite good for day one and for day 90. And if you sort of keep that North Star in the future, what I've seen startups do is not either deviate from the product market fit that initially was decided on, hiring really poorly, getting too full of themselves very quickly and sort of start spending money when they shouldn't. But they do have the right toolkit when they start. So I hope that, accelerators in Florida will do the same thing in the future, maybe, I mean, there's Techstars, there's Plug and Play, that's sort of like, they have the same playbook everywhere in the world, and that playbook has been pretty successful so far.
Great.
Hey, Praveen. Praveen.
Yeah, David, just 1 second. So once you do your last sentence or your last goodbyes. Yeah.
It was a pleasure, and you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to try and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
So I was just going to emphasize on what she was saying in regards to, Eric, and when you're doing a pitch and you have such a wonderful idea, right? You know that you have a wonderful idea when you're giving that pitch because that's why you're giving it, right? But so out of the funny stories, you don't necessarily want to give a sense of urgency to the investor that they should invest in you right now, otherwise they're going to miss the opportunity, right? Because there's a good chance that an investor is going to look at you and say, okay, I guess I'll have to miss this opportunity. And I've heard that story a few times. So just to take that in consideration.
Let's see. So that's your what not to do, right?
Yeah, what not to do. Don't tell the investor that they need to invest now, or they're going to miss out on the opportunity because they're probably going to look at you. I guess I'll miss this one. Then I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I could jump in there, a really good guide for founder is you should seek to avoid judgment charts. So we had ridiculous revenue growth last year. Bad. We had strong revenue growth last year. Still bad. Our revenue grew 3x last year. 3x is a fact. A lot is a judgment. I might not think 3x is a lot. Put it on the page and let me decide. We have an incredible team. Do you? Who says that? Why? Tell me what it is about your team that makes them a good fit for that market and to build your product.
Before you go into that, is it the organization? Sorry, what's the name?
Palantir.
Okay, so for instance, I've done a lot of advising, consulting, and more recently investing into startups. And sometimes the way that we'll invest is through technology investing. And effectively, a lot of tech companies, like they start and they either don't have the money to fully build their tech, or we can invest what they need, and then just do a little bit of customization, much lower fee. But we'll end up taking on like a co-CTO or interim CTO role because they simply don't have the job. So when we were going back to talking about technical teams, but also the importance of having at least one of the leadership or founding members from the university or organization. If like an amazing team, amazing startup comes about their desk and they're kind of lacking that leadership or that maybe technical savvy, is there some sort of a way that you facilitate bringing in someone from your organization, like a bright mind that could help on ops or help on tech, kind of round out that team and also make it more attractive for you guys to invest into?
I would be very hesitant to make any team changes prior to investing. Just telling the founder how to run their job, and that's not really what we're in business in. Venture capital is just not right.
So when we did introductions earlier, I noticed like at least 40% of the people here were into blockchain crypto. I guess it's a Miami thing. So yeah, something. So I think we could talk about with David and Art Rosenbaum here, who's the founder of one of the most popular conferences in the world, and David's company hosts all the popular conferences in LA. We can talk about alternative funding and how blockchain helps with that as far as it relates to people in this room who decided to come up. So Art, why don't you introduce yourself, your conferences, and maybe some funny stories.
Sure. I might actually take that as my cue to leave. Only to chat crypto. Right, hang on.
Yeah, so, my name's Art, I started a conference that I'm not gonna say the name of it, but it's a very funny name. And, it actually started off as a joke, it started in 2021, the Bitcoin conference came to Miami at that time, and they have a reputation for being extremely maximalist. They're Bitcoin only, and they don't accept any other things. And they're very strict to the point of being like almost comical. And I was thinking like it'd be hilarious if someone did the opposite of Bitcoin conference and called it something similar, but opposite. And other people in the space thought it was hilarious, and we kept on joking. And in the span of about half an hour, in 2020. This joke became like an actual thing. People started throwing money at us to like make it happen. So it turned from a joke into like, hey, let's do a scam. It'll be a hilarious scam, and we're gonna scam all the scammers in space, and they're gonna pay for a big party, and all our friends who are here for Bitcoin are gonna come and hang out with us at our pool party, and all the scammers are gonna pay for it. Hilarious. Everyone keeps laughing, they keep throwing more money at us to make it happen. And again, this is all happening in like half an hour span. And eventually it became an actual real thing. Like it got sponsors and speakers and like an actual transformed entirely organically, like people started doing their own thing. And in the first year, I think 3,000 people showed up. And it turned out super awesome. And in the second year, I think 4,000 showed up. And they'll be doing it again this year in Tennessee now. So our whole thing is we follow the Bitcoin conference, and we do our thing at the same time and like down the street. So it's kind of like a anti but it's not like competitive because all of our sponsors are like the sponsors that they would accept. So it's not like they're stealing their business. It's sort of like we're making fun of it, but like we're still in the same kind of like space, I guess.
So that, can you reintroduce yourself?
I'm a little developer, backend developer. Game.
I think this is a crypto blockchain question.
So I've been in Bitcoin investors since 2013. Because I'm a libertarian and a programmer, so I saw some value in that's a shitcoin conference, right? You didn't say the name of it, but I did not.
I was told I shouldn't say
I guess this video is no longer made for kids.
After hours.
And so
Yeah. Maybe you can talk about it when we do NFTs or.
okay, no, I said no to NFT.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
But talk apples.
Yeah, Dave, I know you're a fond Draper and you guys host all those conferences in LA. And I've learned a lot from all there's always a pitch stage on your conferences. You had some really interesting pitches, like you had the guy from Tesla, like doing the Tesla taxi cabs with crypto and some really interesting stuff that goes on. So how have you found this space as far as like the whole vertically integrated ecosystem you're finding formats, having the conferences, the pitch stages, your blockchain booths, like community? Do they also either upon each other, or are you just too early in the game right now to decide yet? Dave? Yeah. Dave, can you talk about the conferences in LA?
Say what? Talking about the conference in LA?
Yeah, talk about the crypto invest summit, the LA blockchain summit. That they,
Yeah, so previously, those were done under DGBH, Draper Goren Home. That is no longer, well, that's still there, the portfolio is there, but now did a name change over the last year. So we will probably eventually do something like those again. It was the LA Blockchain Summit previously. Last year, I know they didn't do last year, but we did the year before that, and that was the first time. And so a lot of times what we do is we have various speakers that come there, and then we have our other portfolio companies that often represent themselves at those conferences.
Yeah, so what do you see for the 2024 as far as like the conference now moving to Tennessee, the Bitcoin conference, other side conferences? And how do you see that as far as like the ability to pitch? Because typically people would come to LA and pitch your old fund, or at least have visibility into the funding ecosystem. How do people get noticed now? They did not necessarily pitch in Miami or LA.
Some of that was hard to hear, but I think we're going to more attention.
So typically people would go to LA or Miami to pitch at these big crypto conferences. And now that these big crypto conferences are no longer in these two cities, how do we get noticed? Or how do the crypto entrepreneurs get noticed now?
I think we'll still continue to see conferences, and I think hopefully it'll get better. I think we're going to see this whole scene change with institutions coming in 2025. What they didn't take seriously, I think people will actually have to reconsider. I mean, there's a lot of financial advisors out there who never thought of Bitcoin as as an asset class, and now they're kind of being forced to, with BlackRock coming in and saying that this is a financial asset. That I think we're going to see more people. I remember what was in 2022, we still had family offices that were interested in talking about crypto, and I remember talking to one of them myself, talking to them about a protocol, right? And they're asking, well, how does this protocol make revenue? And I was like, what are you talking about? It's a protocol. It doesn't need to make revenue. They're like, what are you talking about, right? And I was addressing, well, use email every day, right? I'm like, do you pay for SMTP? Do you know what SMTP is? And they're like, no. Well, that's a protocol that your email runs on top of, right? And I said that's a lot of what this blockchain stuff is protocols. It doesn't have a company. If it's an underlying protocol, it doesn't have a company that needs to make money. It's a protocol that runs, and it's everything that's built on top of these protocols, and that's where it's going, right? And I was explaining this protocol that has 0% financing, and he's like, how the hell does that work? It's because it's built on top of a protocol, and I could talk about stuff for hours, but it's fascinating. And I think, some of them might be just starting to get a clue about this stuff. But yet I still think it's really early in the space. And so I think we're going to continue to see this space continue to grow, especially as institutions come in and start to adopt it.
So we have another panelist.
Well, Peter Chester.
So I'm Peter Chester, prophetic, first except for the house with from there, I saw a great opportunity, then I went to start with success. Where anyone in the world can post this transaction problems from comprehends. And from there, we started product development and there. And recently we just decided to change our way because we have a lot of other companies that came out and it's practically doing similar things. I would say the exact same thing that